everybody. How's everybody doing? Holy crap. We're semi on time tonight. For once. Let's get comfy. Let's get it in here. Guess while I fuck around and fix shit, I will do my usual spiel in my intro. So, good evening and welcome to Ask Dr. MyKo. I, Dr. MyKo, am a licensed clinical mental health counselor, which means I am bound by an ethical code. It means I am licensed to practice in my state and actually a couple of other states, to be honest. And I also hold a PhD. That's a whole ass fucking doctorate in rehabilitation counseling and administration, which means I'm the shit. So because I am the shit, I do tend to like to share my knowledge with people, share what I know with other people, and just kind of make mental health shit fun, because it can be scary, but it doesn't have to be scary. So that's the whole thing. All right. Kind of want that to go away, but it is what it is. Actually, I can. Boop. Hot. So, let's put on some synthwave because it's awful quiet tonight. Hot. So, my favorite thing to do is to ask people like what their serious fears are about, like, just why they haven't gone to therapy yet, or the fears they have about therapy, thinking like, oh, it's only for crazy people, or some silliness like that. Let me move myself over so Instagram can see me. And so tonight I really wanted to kind of touch base on what to expect from a therapist, what to expect from a therapy session. Because the biggest argument I get is, well, I've got, really close friends. Why can't I just talk to them about my problems and whatnot, and so on and so forth? And I'm trying to tell y'all that, bruh, your friends ain't trained like I'm trained. Like, get out. I mean, no slight against your friends or whatever, but they are not trained like I am trained. Wow, we already got nonsense in the chat here. Bye. Purge them. Who the fuck are you? Oh no, don't time them out. Get them the fuck out of here. Bye. Hot. There we go. I'm glad I did take the chat down there. But yeah, you can't necessarily get the training that I've got and get the partialness that I can give from your friends, simply because while they can try to be as neutral as possible, they really can't. Stop moving. We're gonna play while we talk about that. So, the reason that your friends cannot be your therapist and vice versa is, one, because they're not impartial. Is it? Fuck a duck. Here we go. I can't stand you. FamilyFeetLovers.net. Hot. How about that? Am I super fucking loud now? Oh! I'm gonna go back and clip that because that was hilarious. I love my crazy face. So, let me pull this over here instead then. What is that noise? Whoop. There we go. Smush. But yeah, so your friends cannot be your therapist because they don't have the proper training. They're not impartial. They want the best for you, and a therapist wants neutral for you. They want you to tell them what the best is and then you to go get it. So, with that, we're going to do a couple of case studies tonight to show you how a therapist thinks, how they size you up the second you be like, yo, dog, I don't feel good. Help me. The second you walk in the door, a therapist is already just kind of looking to see where you're at, how they're going to approach you, what's going to be like serious biz for you to help you, really. And there's a couple of key factor things that we look for that your friends don't necessarily. So, for our first case study, let's see. Let's get a good one. Oh, there we go. Case study. Robert is a 45-year-old married man with 2 adult children. He's been employed as a metallurgical engineer in a local steel mill for 20 years. Robert married his high school sweetheart. Describes their relationship as typical. They eat meals, attend family gatherings together, but do little else as a couple. Robert spends his spare time reading, playing golf, and watching TV. For the last 2 months, Robert has felt blue and his appetite has decreased. Because he's not been sleeping well, Robert drinks more at night. Sometimes he feels like life is hardly worth living. Robert has tried to snap himself out of this sour mood, but nothing seems to work. So, let's say Rob decides to go over to his friends and shit, right? And be like, yo, I'm just not feeling it, like whatever. The first thing the homies are gonna try to do is be like, no, what are you talking about, bro? You got a wife, you got these kids that are doing well, you got this good job, blah, 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 blah. And, right, they're gonna try to convince him of the good things. And one, unfortunately, while we feel like we're empowering and building our friends up when we try to say things like that, we are invalidating as fuck. Like, bruh, I'm aware I have all these things. If I wasn't aware, I would feel a little weirder of why I feel like this, right? So, I don't like that. Yeah, let's do that. We not swapping hands in here. It's ridiculous. We don't swap hands. So, one thing friends also don't take into account is things like demographic information. You'll notice when I read that case study, the first thing it tells me is he's 45 years old and he's got 2 children and he's married. That demographic shit is so important because as a therapist, I have to put myself in the position of thinking about it generationally. I'm not 45, ergo he is from a different generation than I am, which means there are different rules at play for him. 2, he's male, and just kind of judging by the description, probably Caucasian. Neither of those things, which I am. So again, there's other layers. See, friendship, once again, we kind of want the best. We want to approach them as encouraging as possible, but we're not taking all these personal rules he has attached to, his persona into account. Like maybe he's got a friend that's like in his 30s or a friend that's in his late 50s, and they're like, oh no, you're living the best life and whatever, blah blah blah. But they're not seeing it from his perspective, and that's where we lose our friends, and that's how we invalidate them. So he's 45, midlife, things going on that automatically makes me want to think, okay, what are some things that you've tapped into that you feel like you've missed out on, or that that you haven't done, that you got on the back burner, that you haven't, like there's 1,000,001 questions just from him being that age, in that age range. So he's got 2 adult children. What's your relationship like with them? What do you feel like it's fulfilled? Do you feel like you just kind of raised kids and kept it moving, or do you just kind of feel like your relationship with them could be better? Let's go with Yellow Beach. He's married. How is your marriage? He told us a little bit about that in the case study. He describes the relationship as typical. Well, I'm a curious bitch and I want to know what the fuck that means. Because it's not 1950 anymore. It's not 1960 or 1970. So what does typical mean for Robert? And when I hear that word, like off the bat, I get this sensation. And that's another thing with your friends. They don't necessarily tell you what they feel or what their thought process is all the time. And so they can't look at you objectively because they're just kind of knee-jerk reacting. So when I hear the word typical, it makes me feel, like, okay, when I hear typical, I think run of the mill. I think, it's what I'm supposed to be doing. And I'm just like, what? So exploring that a little bit more is something else. And we're only 2 sentences in. We're only 2 sentences in here in this case study. So there's a lot of things that friends just can't account for. And ergo, that's why some of our advice just doesn't work. I'm drawing all types of cards tonight. There we go. Second line, he's been a metallurgical engineer, I don't even know what the fuck that is, for 20 years. So while I don't understand metallurgical, I'm sure it has to do with steel. Obviously, it's a steel mill. Um, but I do understand the word engineer. And as someone who works with college students who go to school to become engineers, I know a whole fuck ton about engineer development. The place I work, engineers, they have very little opportunities for social life. They have very little opportunities for self-exploration because, at least at my university, the engineering program is very steep. It's very serious. Like, you are nose to the grindstone all the time, and that doesn't leave room for, being mentally ill or being sick or anything like that, or being social. Like, they're either always doing homework or they're sleep deprived. Like, that is what usually walks in my door on my campus. So okay, we'll skip you. So with that also, I'm looking at, with the student engineer, I'm looking at, motivations for becoming an engineer, because unfortunately about 80% of most engineering students that I see go into engineering because their parents told them it would make money. Not because it's something you like to do, not because it's something that's interesting, but it makes money. And money, while it can buy happiness, if you don't have the other pieces to bridge it, it kind of sucks. You kind of become antisocial because you don't have time to develop the social skills, which means you know how to do a job and make money, and that's it. And it sounds like in Robert's case, also follow societal rules about, how things should be. Well, I should be an engineer because engineers make money. And if I make money, that means I should start a family. I should start a family means I should get married. I should raise kids. And then, that's it. I've made it. But it sounds like in Robert's case, he hasn't made it. Let's see. The other thing I see here, he married his high school sweetheart. As a couples therapist, I thoroughly enjoy couples therapy. Y'all know that about me. But the first thing that makes me cringe when I, get to know a new couple is, oh, we've been together since we were 14. What? Bitch, y'all didn't even know y'all selves when you was 14. How you gonna just marry your high school sweetheart? Like, no offense to those that do and it works, but I'm telling you, a lot of the times, dysfunctional stuff happens in these relationships because you've never taken the time to, one, get to know yourself, and two, you spend all this time adapting to a person that you don't even really know if you wanted to be with forever, for real. Like, you were fed a dream and that sucks, and you're still in it 30 years later. So, and it's like, it's not that, they're terrible people or the love is just not there. Like, you can grow to care for someone a whole lot, but caring from a distance is still a thing, because if it's not working, why would you force it? But that's a whole nother can of worms. So he married his high school sweetheart. What else did he do? They eat meals, go to family gatherings, but they don't do anything else as a couple. They don't do date night. They don't, there we go. They don't, spend quality time, it sounds like. And it's just like, what's the point of this relationship if we're not enjoying each other, if we're not liking our, each other's company? Stack that bitch. So there's that. Spends his spare time reading, playing golf, and watching TV. Now, granted, this leads me to tapping into, what do you do to manage stress? What do you do for fun? Because while reading can be great, it stimulates the brain, it can be personal growth oriented, for some people, that's not a fun pastime. It's something to pass the time, but not necessarily a pastime, if it makes sense. Playing golf, again, it sounds like a very involved hobby. Sometimes you don't want to be that involved. Sometimes you want to be able to just do something and enjoy it for the sake of doing it, not to perfect your game or not to, do something that's infuriating. Also watching TV. I'm a huge proponent of watching trash TV with a limit. Like, oh, fuck you, buddy. Like, a limit. Like, I'm not sitting here talking about binge watch Basketball Wives or Real Housewives of Atlanta for a day. I'm saying put a time limit on it. Give yourself an hour, 2 hour. Especially same thing with social media and the scrolling. Like, for me, I can easily waste 2 hours on TikTok alone. That's it. That's it. Just lurking and laughing my ass off for 2 hours. But that's 2 hours that I probably won't get back unless I time it just right. Where I don't have to do anything. You ass. You better not have Uno. Anyway, so again, not very involved, not very fulfilling usually, because TV sometimes isn't fulfilling for people. So I'd ask him about, hobbies that he's left behind. And I guarantee you, he'd probably tell me something about hobbies that he had going through his engineering program that he had to let go of to focus more on his program. I guarantee you he hasn't revisited those since he's been married and had children. I guarantee it. Because something about getting to this point in your life and not feeling like you've done everything means that there is stuff missing. And usually those small development points are, what falls by the wayside. So, let's see, what else? For the last 2 months, he's been feeling blue and his appetite has decreased. That off the bat tells me all I need to know about diagnosis. He's got, having a depressive episode. Since it's 2 months and not 3, it's not major depression. Since it's 2 months, it is a depressive episode, and I would say it is probably moderate since he's not sleeping or eating. Oh, eat it. Oh, let's go with yellow. And then, that also comes with the drinking. The moderation means that it's kind of up a notch. It's not exactly so severe to the point where he's like off the rails and not getting out of bed, but he's abusing substances, not sleeping, and not really eating because he can't. So, depressive episode, moderate symptoms and whatnot. Sometimes he feels like life is hardly worth living. This is not to be confused with suicidal ideation. Small sidebar. A lot of times people think suicidal ideation means that if you think about it, you're gonna do it, and that's not necessarily true. There is what's called passive suicidal ideation, which is what Robert here has. Passive simply means it's more so not so much I'm going to hurt myself or I'm going to kill myself, I'm going to leave this planet, I have a plan. It's more so I am thinking about death and dying more often, and I really get the notion that things would just be better if I wasn't here. And it's passive because there's probably no plan, there's probably no serious thought about it, and there's no tendency or actual desire to die. With passive suicidal ideation, it is, like I said, more of the world would probably be better if I wasn't here. Meaning it really breaks down and translates to, if things were better, or if I didn't have all this stuff, I would be okay. So try to snap himself out of it, but nothing seems to work. And typically when I hear that they've been kind of trying, I do check in with people and say, well, what have you tried? What kinds of things felt effective in the moment, or mostly ineffective, because nobody likes to get into session with a brand new therapist and have things suggested to them and encouraged that they've already tried. Like, that in itself is invalidating. It feels like you're wasting your time. So that guy is determined to win this game. Oh, you bastard. I guess we're drawing 2 fucking cards to me. So I would definitely check in on how he just kind of thinks about life in general, because a lot of times when we're trying to shake our own tree and get things moving and we can't, it's because we're holding on to very rigid rules for ourselves or rigid beliefs. Skip you. No Uno for you. Yeah, we're holding on to very rigid beliefs. Like, I have a client right now, and they are, very much depressed simply because they're still trying to function in a rule set that doesn't work for them or doesn't serve them right now. Like, it's cool, you can do all these things you want to do, you just gotta loosen the grip on some of these rules. And when I say rules, I mean things like, I have to be successful at this thing, or I have to go back to school right now, or I have to. All the have tos, shoulds, musts, everything, all those lies we tell ourselves about stuff that just simply isn't true. Those things get in the way, and most of the work is prying those things from people. Because, don't get me wrong, while they've served people in the past, your beliefs, your values, things, the way you do things has served you in every experience up until this point. Damn, y'all are on one right now. It just doesn't serve you right now in this particular instance, and while we may not have to let go of it completely, we gotta loosen the reins a little bit. Africa, my love, how are you? Mwah. So I would definitely check in on that to stabilize him, because no one also likes to get into therapy and be like, I'm working on my problems and I don't have anything to feel like I can take away with me from the initial session. So, in an initial session with people who have depression or have, physiological symptoms, I definitely let them leave with, something behavioral to do and to try when they get home, because it's probably taken them a whole lot to get the therapy in general. So for Robert here, because he's not sleeping well and he has a decreased appetite, one, obviously, I said, I definitely check in with stress management stuff, because a lot of people think that because you're depressed, you can't be anxious. But in actuality, especially in men, depression looks a lot like anxiety. And anxiety is what makes us not eat or sleep because we're in survival mode. So, with that one, I check in with stress management stuff. I would have him, figure out some sort of like hobby or relaxation activity to do. And it sounds a little cheesy, but the whole reason most people go to therapy is because they don't focus on themselves at all. They focus on what they should be doing to be functional when it's not functional for them. So exploring hobbies means you're finding something that's functional for you. Hints. Ah, Puddin', how could you do that? You let Al win. And so, along with that, with the stress management stuff, I would help him find a relaxation activity, whether that's just sitting for 10 minutes outside, doing some belly breathing, trying some guided imagery, deep meditation, taking an intentionally long, slow shower. And a lot of people kind of overlook that one. It's like, because we have to jump in the shower, we have to wash our body, we have to wash our ass every day, and sometimes I got to do it quick because I got to go to work. Slowing yourself down in the things that you're having to do is basically practicing mindfulness. And so with that, you're being intentional and focusing more inward, because right now you're focusing on all the things that are wrong, which are usually outside of us. So helping him find a relaxation activity is one. As far as appetite, I would definitely check in on what that looks like, because sometimes decreased appetite doesn't necessarily look like I'm not eating at all. Sometimes it just looks like I'm not hungry, but I'm forcing myself to eat. So with that, I do look at, well, what are you eating? Because a lot of times mood food is a thing, because we are, chunking down whatever things that are, high in fat, but in high in calories, that can make us sluggish. That might not give us the right amount of energy that we need. Damn, I'm drawing 4 right now. We might not get the energy we need, and that's kind of how depression sinks itself in sometimes, especially somatically or physically. If we don't have the energy to fight it, then it's going to win more days of the week than you would like. So I would check in on what his eating currently looks like. So if it's like, are you eating at least one time a day? Because one time at least means you're trying to, feed your machine, to propel yourself with energy. And what are you eating? Are you eating things that are high in protein? Are you eating things that are filling, or, just energy producing in general? So I check on that for the eating portion. And I would also have him kind of monitor what that looks like. It's like, okay, well, keep an eye on the days that you have appetite versus the days that you don't, or, days where you eat good versus days where it just kind of, you feel, just kind of not like you did great at eating. For the sleep, I would check in on sleep hygiene. As you remember our episode a couple of weeks ago on sleep hygiene, I would check on, what are you doing before bed? Are you stimulating your brain too much? Are you watching the news? Are you reading a suspense novel? Are you watching a scary movie? Like, are you unwinding and letting your mind and body relax before you decide to turn in for the night? Do you have a bedtime routine? Do you do something to empty your mind and, just kind of acknowledge your thoughts for the day? Are you doing anything other than sleeping in your bed? Meaning no watching TV, no working, no eating. I mean, you can do the nasty or whatever, but still, sleeping should be the top priority if your sleep is currently out of whack. So I would check in on sleep hygiene for that. So with those behavioral things, he can take that with him after our first session. See you back in a week. Let me know, how those things went. So I also do online therapy. I do teletherapy, online counseling. And so I like doing that also because not only can I check in on my clients in between sessions, like I can check in on specific things that they're working on to, one, make sure they're fucking doing it, and two, see what's working in the moment, what's not, and troubleshoot any existential crises. With my face-to-face brick and mortar clients, I can't exactly do that. I mean, I can, but nobody wants to make 30 phone calls a day. It's much easier to shoot a chat message. So um, I would check in with him in the middle just to kind of see, what the behavioral homework is doing. I call it behavioral homework. Is doing and seeing, what's working, what's not working. Are we, being consistent with practicing sleep hygiene, or do things keep coming up? Are we still reading books in bed before bedtime, or are we sitting out in the living room in a chair to do that? Bless your heart, Snow. Don't worry. Here, do that. So give him some behaviors to take with him so we can troubleshoot, trial and error. And if I don't hear from him in the middle, then by next session, I can check in on that and we can go from there about the depression symptoms. Part of the counseling process also that your friends can't give you is time. Because as friends, we want you to feel better right now. We want to encourage you. We want to, oh, I'm going to win. We want to empower you. We want you to feel better today, right now, in this moment with us. And as part of the therapeutic recipe, time has to be there. So that's why I also like to do weekly sessions with clients, because life has to happen to you in the middle. Because it's never just a quick fix thing. Like, you can't just, damn, we gotta draw. You can't just be like, okay, these are my problems. I've got the solution and now I'm gone. Because life will continue to happen. So we need to learn a long-lasting, affirming skill to take with you to stand the test and challenge of life happening to you. That's called implementation and adaptation. So that's another thing your friends can't give you, because they'll be like, well, just do this and this and it should be fine. Whereas we're like, all right, well, what are you thinking about doing? Okay, what are the pros and cons of this? What, is the thought process behind choosing that? And, how do you feel like that would work? Do you have any doubts? Whatever, whatever you decide to go with, we'll check in with it next week. All right, draw 4 of each. So let's move on to our next case study, shall we? Let's find an interesting one. I don't want to do another dude. No. Oh, all right. This one's good. This one's really good. All right. So let's talk about Kathy. Again, these names are totally fabricated, by the way. So Kathy had been married for 14 years to her high school sweetheart. Things started out good, but as their family grew to 4 children the first 5 years, their marital relationship gradually deteriorated. Her husband, a sales manager, traveled almost every week, and when he was home, he tended to ignore her and the kids. Kathy would occupy herself with housework, church duties, and helping neighbors and other relatives. Most people thought that Kathy had a good marriage, but inside she felt empty and trapped. Feelings of frustration and anger would occasionally rise to the surface, but most of the time she just kept it all inside. When Kathy started therapy, she had just discovered her husband had an addiction to porn. She was surprised, hurt, angry, and didn't know whether she wanted to stay in the marriage or leave. She was concerned about the kids. Therapy focused on, Kathy discovered her husband was in many ways like her father, who was an alcoholic. And growing up, she tried to control her family, and now she was trying to control her husband, and it was failing. So, with Kathy, off the rip, as soon as I read she married her high school sweetheart, I'm like, So with Kathy, unfortunately, once again, she does sound like a Caucasian female. It does not necessarily give her age, but often in my actual therapeutic experiences with different people of color, different diverse populations, whether they're internationally based or Caucasian American, it's really interesting that Caucasian women have a hard time with identity development outside of external relationships. It is also pronounced in women of color, but it's more so expressive in Caucasian women, more so because women of color are, told by society they have to keep everything in and be strong for everybody. But again, another soapbox. So, with that, it tells me that because you marry your high school sweetheart, you're either going with the flow of things in society, which could be a generational thing. Again, they didn't tell me how old she is. Um, it could also mean that you hadn't had a chance to just kind of explore yourself, your life, your likes, your dislikes, and you just kind of learn gradually to keep those things to yourself and occupy yourself with other things. Hence, she gets lost in housework and church duties and helping other people. So she just kind of pours out of herself and not into herself is what I hear right off the bat with that. Let's see. They got 4 children, so that's what, 6 people in a household. If he's always traveling for work, that means she's with the kids all the time, which can, be stressful. So that's another added layer. She's a mom. Being a mom is a full-time motherfucking job, bro. So with that, she's got to be mom. She's got to be head of household when he's not there. She's got to keep things clean. She's got to keep people fed. Not to mention she's also pouring into other people with church duties and helping just neighbors and relatives. So with that, I'm really convinced that she's just not here for herself. She's not in her own corner, and that really sucks. And this is just first paragraph that I'm working with. When her husband's home, he ignores her and the kids, which off the rip feels invalidating, because it's just like, I've been working hard all this time while you've been away at work, and you're just gonna ignore me? Cool. I don't exist. I don't bust ass all day. Whatever. So, I kind of meant to do that draw the blue, but I didn't see it. So there's that part. So feeling undervalued, feeling, low self-worth and all that good stuff. Let's see. So occupying herself with other things, again, reaching outside of herself. And it was interesting. They pointed out that most people thought she had a good marriage. Again, outside looking in. Be nice to people. You don't know what their life is like. You don't know what they're going through. And hydrate, bitches, because I love you. But she felt empty and trapped is what it says here. And I can imagine, because there's no validation. There's no sense of self-worth, because if you never had a chance to explore just yourself, your identity development, then that means you never really built up your self-esteem. It's called self-esteem for a reason. And if we've replaced it early on with seeking outside validation from others for our efforts, that's problematic, because when you don't get it, you feel empty, unfortunately. And that trap feeling really kind of speaks to me, on a generational level again, but again, they didn't say how old she was. That you're supposed to make a marriage work is one of the general societal beliefs that get tossed around often. Let's see. Feelings of frustration, anger would occasionally rise to the surface, but she'd keep it to herself. As a woman, that is often a major just kind of underpinning about how women should be in society. Women aren't allowed to get mad. They're supposed to be poised and calm all the time. That's something I learned in college, that just wasn't me. I did not fucking fit that. Fuck out of here. We're gonna fucking argue or throw hands. I'm not condoning domestic violence. It was a joke. But no, and so she would just kind of keep her feelings inside, which means to me that that's really emotionally draining. And emotional drainage means energy is not there. Because if I am holding everything in and doing all my stuff and not getting what I want, that's a lot. And I'm probably drained all the time. Let's see. Discovered her husband had a porn addiction. She was surprised with that, hurt and angry, and didn't know whether she wanted to stay or leave. So with that one, while it is not my specialty area, I have counseled those who experience porn addiction or sex addiction in general, and it is an interesting feat to be able to get their partners involved in their recovery process. Simply because, it's a lot, because you have to not only take care of the person that's trying to recover, but you also have to take care of their partner, because they've got their own messages about, well, what does this mean about me? Am I not a good spouse? Am I not attractive? Am I not this? Am I not enough? It usually boils down to that question, am I not enough? And so it's a lot of damage control you have to do with that too. So you add that layer on to Kathy here. Didn't know if she wanted to stay or leave. She doesn't know if she wants to make it work or, just kind of take this as an out. And it says she was concerned about the kids, and I'm betting that that's the biggest influence on whether she wants to stay or leave. And that's always interesting to me, with one and a half, we'll call them 1.5 parent households. Simply because you think just because you're in a relationship or you're married that you're a 2 parent household, when if your spouse is not as involved as you are with the kids, or ball sack, y'all are rude, as not as involved as you are with the parenting of your children, then you're a 1.5 parent household. And so when things like this come up, when you're deciding to stay or go, that automatically just kind of falls by the wayside. It's just like, no, you've been doing this by yourself. The kids are fine with you. You're okay. And a lot of people just, hi, Stone Mage. A lot of people just kind of don't understand that you've already been doing this, and it's okay to step away if this isn't working for you. So there's another layer for old Kathy there. Discovered in many ways that her husband was like her father, who was an alcoholic. So not only do we have being a 1.5 parent, being technically a single mom, being invalidated by our partner, being empty because we need validation that we don't get, as well as keeping our feelings bottled and worrying about, holding standards to stay in a marriage. Now we're being triggered because our partner reminds us of our alcoholic dad. So Kathy's got a lot going on. The fact that she does a lot for other people and nothing for herself tells me that she's got some codependency stuff going on. Like, she sees worth in being needed, even though it's not validating. So she keeps doing it. And so that speaks volumes about, the work we need to do together, which will turn out to be, learning to stand on her own, developing a self-concept, because again, if you never got to explore your identity or develop that because you're too busy adapting to a relationship straight out of high school, then, you might want to backtrack and do that. And a lot of people, they get upset about that. It's like, oh, I should have done this. I should have. Well, listen, shoulda, coulda, woulda, but we're doing it now. So stop beating yourself up. Like, all this energy you're wasting beating yourself up, you could be putting towards building yourself up. That sounds good, don't it? So yeah. So the other thing it mentions lastly was that she tried to control her family growing up, and now she was trying to control her husband. So children of addicted parents or alcoholic parents often find themselves, just kind of in a different family role, like we talked about last stream on Monday last week. They find themselves in a few roles. Sometimes that role is being the cat herder. We got to make sure the family's okay, which speaks volumes to why she does for other people right now. If she was in charge of keeping the family together and keeping everybody okay, then once again, we're being whole ass triggered. So, I would say for Kathy, now as a therapist, that's the other thing. So as a friend, you'd be like, girl, just leave him. Oh my gosh, this, that, the other. You don't need to take this, take that. But as a therapist, I can't just jump and say that, because it's not my decision what you do with your life. It's not my decision what you choose to keep and what you choose to give away. My thing is working within the parameters that seem legit to you enough for you to function and progress, successfully. So maybe Kathy doesn't want to leave her husband, and that's okay. Now, it was my brain being like, girl, couldn't be me? Probably, but she don't see that on my face, and I definitely don't say that in the session. But if she does choose to stay, then, working on, okay, well, we need to start balancing out self-focus with, oh, you fucking bastards. We need to be able to start, balancing out self-focus with, our role in our relationship or role in our marriage. And who knows, maybe in discovering some of that self-focus, she'll be like, this balance is too off for me. I don't like it. So there's that. So self-focus is one, especially because like long-term speaking, she's going to have difficulty when it's time for the kids to leave the nest if she continues this way. Because if her life's purpose, her life's work have been her kids and being useful to other people, then when all that stuff is gone, she's going to feel like she has nothing, unfortunately. So I would definitely diagnose her with, What would I diagnose Kathy with? Definitely relational problems, which is a V code, which insurance companies hate, because that means that you can't be labeled as a quote unquote chronically ill person. It's just, V code is like life circumstances stuff. Like it's a phase or an era of your life, and it can get fixed with work, and you can be undiagnosed with it. So, I would definitely diagnose her with relational issues, as well as some codependency. So, ooh, someone's popping popcorn in my house. Oh, it smells good. Oh, it smells so good. Ah! I could have swore I turned the music off. Why do I still hear it? So, there it is. Thank you. I like how this Uno gives you an option if you're colorblind. I love it. It's fantastic. Fun fact, I have dated at least 4 people that are colorblind in my lifetime. I don't know what that says about me, but whatever. Let's see. Let's try another one. All right, let's go with a little younger crowd. Let's do that. So, Tina, again, not a real name, is a 17-year-old high school junior who resides with her parents and 14-year-old brother. Tina's mother is concerned about her daughter's recent 22-pound weight loss. Tina counts calories and exercises each morning and evening. Despite her weight loss and low average size, Tina says that she is fat. She weighs herself several times a day. Tina has always felt close to her family, especially her mother. She's an excellent student, active in cheerleading, and works a part-time job. Mom tells her that she looks too thin, but Tina still believes she needs to lose more weight. Tina is quickly offended and reacts defensively. When Tina's father encourages her to eat more, she argues with him during dinner. Tina's brother teams up with Dad. Sometimes calling Tina names. Dad, that's a big old no-no. What the fuck? On several occasions, Tina has left the table and locked herself in her bedroom. Tina's parents are unsure if she is showing some ordinary teenage rebellion or if she's developing an eating disorder. Until now, Tina has never given them any problems. Called adolescenthood. So, I work with ages, 17 to 24 at my main bread and butter on my college campus. And in my side hustle, I try to work with 20 and up because I don't like teenagers. Okay, so don't like but like they're very complex beings, and like it's at such a peak in like tumultuous diversity and identity change that it's hard to keep up with. And like I can only work with maybe 1 or 2 adolescents on my caseload at a time because it's just so much, because every little thing is important to an adolescent at that point in their life. Everything between, what their love interest said about them, or who posted what on their Instagram or whatever, that kind of crap, you have to pay attention to because it is important to them, and it's a lot to keep up with, unfortunately. So let's go with green. So for Tina, she's 17. She's a junior in high school. Which means, she's at that age where she's going to start having to make her own decisions and all that stuff, which can be, daunting. Can have a lot of pressure put on, which means pressure to conform to something standard or some belief system that like actually works. And for a lot of people, it's how they express the way they look, their appearance, what society says they should be doing, having a plan for their future, even though it's perfectly all right if you don't, but no one ever tells them that for real. So there's that. Resides with their parents. Before they said mom and dad, I was like, okay, parents, so maybe same-sex couple, whatever. That comes with its own layer of issues, but they said mom and dad, so heterosexual parents, and a 14-year-old brother, so a brother that is a bit younger, but still kind of like close in age. So I notice here it says mom is concerned about the weight loss, which means clearly it's noticeable, which means clearly this is her coming to request counseling on behalf of her daughter instead of the daughter wanting to come at all. That adds its own set of problems to it. Damn it, why you gotta pick red? So, not only is weight loss noticeable, but now we've got, teenage angsty fight back because mom is making me go to therapy, and that's just stupid. So, let's see. She counts calories, exercises twice a day. Weight loss, she thinks she's fat and weighs herself several times. Off the rip, I would guarantee you absolutely yes, this is an eating disorder, or at least body dysmorphia. As someone who has body dysmorphia, as someone who has body dysmorphia, it is a beast to tackle, and you do tackle it for the rest of your life, unfortunately. Simply because once we can't trust our brain, we have to constantly keep it in check consciously. And that's mostly what body dysmorphia is. It's not necessarily just the eating, the behavioral stuff, but it is how we think. To the point where looking in the mirror at 2 different times in a day, your perspective can be completely distorted. So, and that's hard for me because I love looking in the mirror. Oh my gosh. Hi, Cody. So, at least body dysmorphia or some form of eating disorder. She's always felt close to her family, especially her mom. So again, another added layer of just kind of upset because mom's making me go to therapy because she thinks I have a problem. It's basically being taken as you're telling me I'm doing something wrong and I don't appreciate it, and it really sucks. So there's that layer. She's an excellent student, active cheerleader, and works a part-time job. Those 3 things right there tell me a whole lot. It tells me that she is a pusher. She pushes until she gets what she wants. And damn the consequences. I.e., who cares if I look skin and bones? I'm going to do everything I feel like I'm supposed to be doing to get this lifestyle I supposedly want, or fulfill this persona that I supposedly want. And it sucks. Excellent student. A lot of times to avoid, confronting problems, people do pour themselves into their work, whether they're a student, whether they're a full functioning adult. Simply because it offers validation and it's very straightforward with, what we need to do. It's like, okay, I know how to do my job. Damn if I got a drinking problem, but I know how to do my job, So we pour ourselves into things that we can actively do behaviorally to make ourselves feel better. And so for her, keeping up the grades is one thing. If she's active in cheerleading, that may actually add to the body dysmorphia because along with adolescenthood comes with a lot of comparison to others, especially your peers. If, you've hit puberty and you got, these cup tits in the 12th, in the 11th grade, and your friend Stacy hasn't got there yet and she's got an A cup, and it looks like she's got abs, but really her skin's just pulled so tight because she's so small, you're gonna be a little jelly for no reason. So there's that portion of it. And then working a part-time job, again, expectations and heightened responsibility on something that doesn't even have to be right now. Whatever, Hawking. Ha ha ha, he's the man. And so getting offended and reacting defensively when people encourage her to eat and arguing during dinner. Again, that's you're attacking me for trying to be someone I want to be. And so with that, you're not necessarily hearing, but you're killing yourself. You're hearing, you think I'm doing something wrong and you're chastising me, so I'm going to retaliate. Let's see, what else is there that stands out? Dad calls Tina names and brother teams up with dad. To be reprimanded by your parental unit is one thing. To be tag team with your parental unit and your younger sibling is something completely different. Well, granted, we can all learn from, older, younger, whatever. It doesn't feel good when you're being chastised by someone who was born after you. I mean, it's just a fact of life, unfortunately. But there's that. So with that, I would definitely diagnose her with some form of eating disorder or at least body dysmorphia, like I said. I would prescribe individual therapy for her and family therapy for everyone, simply because we can't be treating people with, problems like they're a problem. We can't sit here and argue over their problem because they think you're attacking them and therefore won't see the problem. And so with the family structure portion, I would definitely help people, kind of identify roles, identify, what's nurturing, what's encouraging versus what's not. Because, no one teaches us that we can speak up in families because most of our families invalidate us and treat us like we don't know shit and don't listen. So there's that portion. So teaching everyone to just kind of be up to speed and be empathetic and considerate and encouraging as opposed to condemning. For Tina's individual, I would definitely look at how she's identifying what being healthy means, because everyone's got a different definition for that. For some people, healthy means having a certain level of caloric intake. For other people, healthy means feeling better. For other people, that means, just being able to fit their clothes better, or eating regularly, or having portion control. So having her define that for herself will become very important and prominent in her individual therapy. Also, with just kind of exploring her current behaviors, like she's counting calories. How are you counting them? What are you counting? And what are you eating to count them? Looking at her exercise level, like, is it 30 minutes in the morning and 30 minutes in the evening? Or are we going to the gym like 6 hours a day and going to class in between? And like, how are these things impacting just kind of overall feeling, overall thought about herself? Those would be other things worth exploring. So that's 3 case studies. Those have been interesting, and it is 8:30 and I've got dinner plans. So per the usual, if there are any questions about mental health stuff, feel free to, type them in the chat, message me on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, whatever. If you are lucky enough to have my personal phone number, go for it. I'm here for you. If you've got a specific scenario that you want me to look over, send it to me. I'll change names and information, keep it anonymous, and go over it like that. Or if you want to be like a guest speaker, or want to ask specific questions like live on air, you can join my Discord. But other than that, I hope everyone has a great rest of your evening, and we will catch you tomorrow.